Learning scholars, how we doing? Okay. Okay, so a couple of things before we get started, okay? So let's take a look at just one quick little thing. So you've already done work on your composition, so hopefully your rough draft is really, really close to its final form. I would suggest, because it's due on Wednesday, I would suggest that the day you actually finish the thing and have it printed and sitting in your folder ready to turn in is today or tomorrow, right? Because 7:55 on Wednesday morning is, that's the guaranteed time that if the printer is going to crash, that is the time that it's going to happen, right? So don't let yourself be caught up in a tide of misery and unhappiness, right? The only thing that I noticed across the board, and most everybody is doing this, so even though we're technically writing a hymn or a piece for presumably choir, is remember that it needs to be in condensed form. So most of you are doing that, but I did come across a few rough drafts that were in this 4-part format. So top form, yay. Bottom form, nay. Okay. So if you are doing this, what am I trying to say? If you set this up, depending on how you set it up, it may be easier or more difficult because basically with 2 parts with different textures, see how I've got the stems going in 2 different directions for that SETB texture. You have to work with, well, in Sibelius they're called layers or voices, okay? So you just need to be careful about that, okay? So make sure that it looks like a 4-part chorale form like you have here, okay? A couple of other things to notice that you may want to, again, continue to improve upon. So you have oh for 1,000 tongues to sing. And I gave that rhythm to the soprano when I was looking at the rough draft. And so to get the right number of syllables per notes, and the other voices, notice that in the second note, I just made it 2 eighth notes. Does that make sense? So that way it's very, very clear what the other singers are supposed to sing. And then on the last bar, notice that I've got 2 notes per syllable. So I need to put a slur between those 2 notes just to show that they are the same, or those are the 2 notes that need to be sung on that syllable, okay? So if you have any questions about formatting, obviously we're not working terribly hard on text setting here, but you wanted to make it as accurate as humanly possible, okay? Make sense? Any questions that I can answer right now about the composition? Yes, ma'am?
Do we need that like contextual analysis on
No. No. Okay, so shouldn't have to have, tell you what though, let's do put Roman numerals in. Okay, so Roman numerals, yes. Contextual analysis, no. Because at that point, the contextual analysis is just helping you get the harmonies in the right order, but I want to be able to look through and just make sure you have everything, okay? So, yeah, so music, obviously. Signs of artistic consideration, right? So put in dynamics and phrase markings, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't have to be just loaded down, but it should be apparent that you've thought about how you would want this performed, okay? Okay, excellent. All right, so let's stand up and take a quick stretch, and then we're going to get started, okay? So, up we go. So, up, up, up. Love for a journey. Wow. And that's you. Alright. Is everybody excited for Broadway?
I'm excited for Bridget's Rob's my favorite syllable.
Oh, good. Okay. Rob loves you too, so. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it only in look first. Okay, so. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do, re, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Do, re, So harmonies that you get. So first chord that you ultimately hear is this one, which is obviously minor. Sort here. What type of chord? Diminished. Good. Eventually you hear.
Or not major minor.
Yes. There's major minor.
Minor.
Minor, minor. Good. Okay. Eventually you will hear.
Half diminished.
Half diminished, yeah, good, okay. And then eventually you do hear, if you didn't have a root in there, you would have, or a root in the key, I should say, you have like a major seventh chord. What we get is, okay, so, yeah, it's a minor ninth, exactly, okay. So, yeah, all kinds of snorties. Okay, so Phrygian mode. Okay, so it's as if you started on E if you were just moving on the white keys, right? Okay, so. Actually, kind of pretty hard. Okay, so half steps, whole steps. What do you have? Do to Ra. So how many half steps? Yeah, okay. Then whole, and then there's your other half step. Okay. So solfege for Ra. So it's a flat 2. Okay. So yeah, so you're doing thumbs, and that's perfectly fine. So yeah, a couple of different ways to do it. I've also seen Ra with like a flexed finger. So either one in this context is appropriate. There are also like different interpretations of La and like, because I know like a lot of choral directors do like La, or they do lay and then Lee, and yeah. So obviously hand signs were not necessarily developed for chromatics, right? Okay, so here we go. Okay, so do to Ra, half step, here we go. Do, Ra, Mi, Fa, Sol, Re, Te, Do, Te, Re, Sol, Fa, Mi, Ra, Do. Good. So we'll start that on Wednesday, okay? All right, let's take a look at homework. So have a seat. For your own wealth and personal knowledge, okay? So, quick moment for history of music theory. In the 19th century, so like we said, we're talking about music theory, the literature of the 19th century, but also what's going on with theorists at this particular time in point of view. So, in the 19th century is actually when we started seeing the use of Roman numerals. Okay, so again, what is it for? It's a way of classifying and describing harmony, trying to make harmony easier to kind of keep track of and keep track of and describe, right? So just as our friend Rameau was trying to simplify thorough-based practice in the 18th century, now we have other theorists and musicians talking about how we can describe music of this era. Generally speaking, music theory has usually lagged about 200 years behind actual practice up until like the last 50 years. Then the theory has either been current with or superseded what's actually going on in music. So that's just an interesting thing. Anyway, so Roman numerals actually come to us from several different traditions, and I've talked about this one before, Stufen theory. So it's German basically for scale step theory. So the Roman numeral corresponds to the scale degree on which a chord is based. It's literally where we get the 1s and the 2s and the 3s, okay? And the two theorists that were responsible for this, if you're looking to blame someone, is George Vogler, who was a German theorist, also known as Abbe Vogler, and he was the one who came up with the Roman numerals. And then Gottfried Weber was the one who started using uppercase and lowercase Roman numerals. And just so you kind of know what he was also known for, he was also known for this concept called Mehrdeutigkeit, which means multiple meanings. So he literally thought the note C is a tonic in the key of C, but it is the supertonic in the key of B flat, and it is the mediant in the key of A flat, and it has multiple meanings depending on what structure you're looking at and in what context, okay? So that's where all of this stuff kind of comes from. So when we think about pivot chord modulation, essentially that's what we're talking about, is multiple meanings. That D major triad has a context of a 5 chord in the key of G, but it also has the quality of a 4 chord in the key of A, and so on. Okay, so that's where all of this tradition comes from. Okay, so we looked at this page on Friday, okay? Let's take a look at this page, okay? So let's remind ourselves what's going on in terms of fully diminished 7 chords, okay? So let's say I have a fully diminished 7 chord starting on G sharp, okay? All right, so G sharp. So help me build a fully diminished 7 chord starting on G sharp. So you have G sharp, and then you have what else? B, and then you have D, and then you have F. Good, okay? So you have this particular chord, and if I said, what inversion is this? Only because you heard me play that as my root, you might say, well, it's a 7 diminished 6/5. But hearing it just out of the clear blue sky, would you be able to tell a difference? None whatsoever. Why? Right, because they are basically symmetrical structures, right? So they're all based on minor thirds. So the only thing that we have to depend on in terms of inversion is what we see with our eyes, right? Okay. And obviously, if you hear it in a particular context, like you might have, you might say, well, okay, that's a 7 diminished 6/5. Well, true enough, but just hearing it out of nowhere, you can tell. Okay, so what we're going to do is just how we practiced the scale steps and saying, well, let's do this as a warm-up, okay? So let's say I have a G. Let's say I have a G major triad, okay? And I want to figure out, just one more time to review, if I want to use this note, the B, as a pivot tone to get to other harmonies or other key areas, I could use that as a chord root, right? Okay, so if I used my B as a chord root for a major triad, that would be one option, right? And it would be in the key of G, it would be a 3 chord, right? Okay. What else could I do? So if I kept this, if I kept the B as a root, what are my other options? The most likely options. I can use it as the root of a major triad, or I can use it as the root of a minor triad. Yeah, absolutely. Which is that in the original key, right? I could use B as a chordal 5th, right? Okay, so let's see. Yeah, there we go. Or I said this backwards, I'm sorry. I could use the 5th as the root of a triad as well. And then I would have, for example, a D major triad as a 5 chord, and then I could have D as a minor triad. That. I could use, for example, G, I could use G as a chordal 7, right? And then I might have, so these are all possibilities of places that I could go. That would be what, 5, 7, and D, right? Okay, so multiple meanings for individual notes, okay? So let's take a look at what we've got up here, okay? So since they're symmetrical structures, basically I can invert them and use them kind of as what I was calling on Friday, kind of as portals to different key areas. What does that mean? Okay, so if you take a look at the first one that's given to us, okay? We have a C sharp, fully diminished 7th chord. Fair enough, right? And if you saw that particular chord all by its lonesome, and you had this, and I said, this is 7 diminished 7 in some key, where would I be resolving to? So there's my T.
D.
Yeah, so D would be my do, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and write that in. Okay. All right. Well, okay, what if I took this chord and I rewrote it? So let's put E on the bottom and build a fully diminished 7th chord again, okay? All of these notes are staying the same. All I'm doing is thinking about them in a slightly different way. So I've got E here, and G, and B flat. And remember, I want to make this look like a fully diminished 7th chord. If I just change this, if I keep this as a C sharp, it's not going to look quite the same. So how can I spell C sharp enharmonically? D flat, you got it, good. Okay. And if I saw this particular chord as a 7 diminished 7, I would be in what key? F major, yeah. Or minor, actually, we don't really know, right? Okay, good. Let's invert again. Okay, so again, this is what I call kind of mental process stuff, okay? We're not going to stop and calculate all of this stuff by hand every single time we get to a modulation, because that would be just kind of time wasting, right? So I'm going to think about this kind of stuff in my head, all right? So I'm going to keep the same notes once again. G, B flat. I'm going to keep my D flat, okay? And then again, I want to show my E enharmonically. So how am I going to show it? F flat. You got it. Good. Okay. All right. And if I saw that resolving to a major 1 or a minor 1, technically we don't know, what would the key center be? Yeah, A flat, right? Okay. Let's invert it one more time. All right, so I'm going to keep my B flat. Remember here, range does not matter, so I can change these out as I wish. Okay. B flat, F flat, and what would the G become? A double flat. Right, exactly. Okay. And if I were in key of C flat, that's what 7 to 7, right? Okay. This is one possibility. Okay, so C flat, E flat, and G flat. Okay. However, remember that we're talking about enharmonicism here and kind of thinking about what the possibilities are. What's the more likely way that you're going to see this particular chord spelled as opposed to B flat, D flat, F flat, and A double flat? What's the more likely scenario?
A sharp,
Yeah.
C sharp.
Yes. You got it, okay? So in this particular case, either way you want to spell it is fine. So A sharp, C sharp, E, and G, okay? And again, if that were to resolve, our A sharp would be to B, right? And we are just presuming major at this point, but again, it can happen in minor as well. Make sense? Okay? So in our heads, this is what we're thinking about in terms of what keys can we get to. Okay, so in the key of B major, I've got 7 to 7. And then if I took this particular chord and went to here, I could go to F major. And if I took the next chord, G, and if I inverted one more time, and like there, okay? So, tell you what, let's do. Let's sing in a range that's comfortable for you. Generally speaking, let's do an SATB texture. Okay, so basses take the bottom pitch as is comfortable, tenors, second note, altos, third note, sopranos, fourth note, and then when we get to the resolution chord, basses and tenors double up on that group, okay? So let's just kind of sing through it on a loop. Okay. Again, whatever range is comfortable, students don't feel like you have to sing in the range that's true, okay? Here we go. Ready? First one. Great job. Let me say that again. Same 4 notes, just presented a little ready, go. Beautiful job, good, okay. Same four notes again, just presented different. Ready, go. Gorgeous, okay. And just to make it easier on our eyes, let's do the B major one. So C sharp, A sharp, C sharp, E, G. Okay. Here we go. Ready, go. Excellent job. Good. Okay. So what does all of this mean in practicality? What it means is when we start getting a little bit more into the analysis of this stuff, which we'll do on Wednesday and then the following Wednesday, is I can get to some pretty remote key areas without having to work terribly hard. So for example, if I'm in D major and I want to go to A flat major, which is pretty remote, right? So I'm going basically a tritone away in terms of roots. I can get there actually easier than you think. And all of a sudden I'm there, and it's not quite as jarring as trying to find some pivot chord that functions equally well between the two of them. I mean, we are talking about a pivot chord, but not necessarily a triad. We're using something a little bit more flexible, I suppose, okay? Some other interesting things that you might know. So fully diminished seventh chords, all minor thirds, all stacked one on top of the other, right? Take a look at the key areas where I can resolve to. Is there a pattern there as well? Because I've got D, and I've got F, and I've got A flat, and I've got C flat or B. Take those key areas and stack them into a chord, what would you get? Yeah, fully diminished seventh chord, absolutely, okay? So what you start seeing are kind of these networks of families of chords that kind of all fit together, okay? All right, so let's take a look at the second one also, okay? So on the second one, you're given kind of a tricky one right off the bat. Okay, so if I saw C, E flat, G flat, and B double flat as my 7 diminished seventh chord, what key would I be thinking about? Yeah, D flat, good. There you go, okay? So what I would like for you to do is turn to a partner if you would, and let's go ahead and practice writing this one out, okay? So please work with a partner, don't work by yourself, all right? So turn to your neighbor, smile at them. It's Monday morning, we're all suffering, right? Okay, so take a few moments and work on that, and I'll come around and check. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You just bring one. Like I said, I decided to slow down and do this stuff first, just because when you see it in real music, you're just like, what do I do? I know what's going on, but I don't know what's going on. So, there you go. So, yes, we're
just inverting this chord. So we're just putting it so that the C is on top.
Oh. Okay. That's what I see.
F flat or E. Well, yeah, all the root first was really natural.
Yes.
I'll be fine.
So, G flat.
And then
We can also make it easier. Oh wait, no, let's do that one.
No. All right. Love to.
By the way, scholars, notice on the last two, it implied that you're going to a minor key, just to be different. So remember that just given what we're given, we don't necessarily know if we're heading to a major key or a minor key. So just play the ball where it lies, okay?
You're right. And then it's all stacked, right?
So then we A,
No, then we go.
D sharp, F sharp, A.
Yes.
C. Right?
Yes.
No. That's what was messing with
What key is this?
that. Probably because you're getting into. I would say change here. That's perfectly fine. Yeah. But what you, sure. Yeah. So whatever you have is perfectly acceptable. It's not like it's extra. How we doing? Okay, good, good. Yes.
It would be A sharp. It's A sharp, right?
No. Yeah. Because remember that C favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
And then we have
so remember friends, in chords 1, 3, 5, and 7, or in measures 1, 3, 5, and 7, the note with the pitch material is going to be the same, right? It's just going to be spelled unharmonically. So make sure that you're not drifting off into an even more remote key area.
And then the next one.
Bad.